Thank you very much. A lot of my technical questions have been asked and answered, but I'd just like to continue with this notion of how crowded space is getting, and not just with this trash that's floating around. If you look at our airspace, now you got more small regional airlines, you've got more international flights that can travel longer, you've got open skies, you've got the UAV industry that's out there, we've got a possible creation now, the president's talked about a space force, and now this commercial space industry. I'm wondering is if you move from accommodation to integration, are all of these people at the table with the FAA, which tends to be very slow and hidebound anyway, or are you just operating in silos and they're going to have to put it all together somewhere down the road?
So in the instance of the Next Gen Advisory Committee, most representatives, I do not believe there's a commercial space operator on the Next Gen Advisory Committee. The Drone Advisory, ALPA is a member of the Next Gen Advisory Committee. The Drone Advisory Committee is another one where we have good representation, but I don't think it's all-encompassing. And Commercial Space Advisory Committee, ALPA's not a member of that. A lot of the issues solved in this, and you're absolutely correct, it is a finite resource, the national airspace, that we need to find ways to accommodate all these users. We just have to. And technologically speaking, there are ways to do it. But it is going to take all the players to be in the same room. So we would urge to expand the cross-section on the Next Gen Advisory Committee, the Drone Advisory Committee, and Commercial Space Committee, Advisory Committee to include all the players.
Joe, you're there.
I think those are great points. I will highlight that the Aviation Rulemaking Committee focused on national airspace issues and integrations and spaceports. That seems to have that seems to be an effort to engage a lot of these interests that have not previously been on the same panels together. So that seems to be the one recent effort that does the best job of bringing all of these interests in to collaborate on some of these issues.
And I'll add that the Federal Advisory Committee, the FACA for commercial space, the ComStack, the Commercial Space Transportation Advisory Committee, was recently reinstituted, and it includes not, I think, stakeholders from every aspect of the aviation industry, but was actually reconstituted with aviation members, I think for the first time.
That's good. My other question is, it's called commercial space transportation activities, and yet what I've heard y'all say is you have contracts with NASA to take some astronauts to the space station. You depend on the Department of Defense for tracking the trash that's out there. You work with the Air Force. What are you doing commercially? What are you doing in the private sector? Is this for tourism? Is it for scientific research? Is it for communications? Is it just because you can fly out there and want to prove it? What are some of the commercial applications you anticipate?
Well, I'll point out that our ranking member today noted that there are $158 billion of space investments occurring on an annual basis. And the majority of those are actually satellite related. So satellite manufacturing, satellite operations, so direct TV, communications, the Wi-Fi on board your flight across the country, all of those kinds of applications that we see, in addition to the government applications that you noted. So the majority of SpaceX's contracts are actually commercial contracts. They are to launch those satellites, the commercial satellites that provide those services for commercial entities to space. So while we do provide launch services to the U.S. government, one of the things that is notable about the way that we provide those services is that we provide them under a firm fixed price contract. And that is a commercial-like contract. So that's why you hear commercial space talked about even with regard to NASA, like the Commercial Crew Program or the Commercial Transportation Program for delivering cargo to the space station. It's because those are conducted under commercial-like contracts. But it is important to note that we had 18 launches at SpaceX last year. 17 of those were FAA licensed as commercial-style launches, and the majority of those were for commercial customers, non-U.S. government customers.
Right now, ULA does work with the FAA for commercial, like Karen was saying, commercially licensed contracts. In the past, we've worked with various companies, Digital Globe, Morello's, the Cygnus missions. I'm sorry, not Cygnus. It's the name's escaping me. But we've had strictly commercial missions. Right now, our commercial missions have government end customers, but again, are fixed price contracts licensed through the FAA. And then looking forward, we expect to have more commercial missions with, for example, Astrobotic, which has a lunar lander that it's planning to launch in the 2020 timeframe. So the different launch services are really vary across the board.
And I'll add from Blue Origin's perspective, every example that you provided of a commercial endeavor are ones that we are currently undertaking and pursuing. So we have private research interests whose payloads we're launching on every New Shepard flight. We also, I mentioned our collaboration with NASA, so we are launching payloads with government interests too. We are very methodically and rapidly moving towards a day when we'll fly private astronauts to space. So we certainly envision a day, not just on our New Shepard program, but also on our New Glenn orbital vehicle program that we're developing, where we will fly commercial satellites, we will fly commercial research payloads, as well as government payloads as well, and government satellites, as well as people, so government astronauts, private actors. We approach this as we're providing a commercial service, a commercial launch service to whatever type of customer might be out there wanting to get to space. So our approach is we are not providing government launches when we have a government payload on board. We are providing commercial services to a government customer, a private customer, a commercial business entity. So we hope to cover the entire scope that you mentioned in your question.
Well, let's promote tourism. From Las Vegas, we always believe in tourism. Thank you.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Lawrence.
Thank you.